Chapter 2, The Worlds Within the Worlds. Tsukasa and Natsumi had the weirdest of days. Monsters, Kamen Rider, portals, and now they are literally talking to a small, purple dragon wearing a business-like outfit. Probably the strangest part of this whole day. The destruction of the Rider worlds? Natsumi utters, pulling off her beanie hat, just speechless. Dragonic nods, though he adds, grinning. You're super adorable with your hair not covered, Natsumi-chan. Natsumi blushes warmly by the kind statement while Tsukasa just makes a face, sweat dropping. Just then they notice the dragon is gone. Where'd he go? Natsumi utters out really unease, and then she feels something between the legs. She looks down and widens her eyes, panicking. Tsukasa looks down and sweat drops, twitching his left eye to see the dragon, lying on the ground, staring underneath Natsumi between her legs. He whistles, commenting, "Lovely panties. Glad you're 18 plus, hee hee. WWWAAA." Natsumi screams of panic and embarrassment, trying to kick him, but he vanishes again. She blinks while looking around and Tsukasa stares, discomforted that Dragonic is literally hiding by sticking onto Natsumi's back, mimicking her limbs and the way she moves. Tsukasa tries sneaking up to grab the dragon and goes for it, only to be touching Natsumi's back. She turns and immediately jabs him with the laughing pressure point at his neck, causing Tsukasa to laugh uncontrollably. "Ah, you know that technique?" The two humans hear the dragon's voice and look up, startling heavily that Dragonic is literally walking on the ceiling. It wasn't just walking using his feet claws gripping on that surface, but rather walking regularly like it was normal ground. Natsumi, not able to handle this, sits on the closest chair at this madness of a day. Tsukasa eyes the dragon, amazingly surprised his fedora hasn't fallen off his head, as he demands him back to the original subject. "What were you speaking of before?" Dragonic eyes him upside down and nods, telling him, "Like I said, I'm an immortal dragon. Perverted a bit, but who isn't? Single quote ellipsis. Prove it. And I mean the immortal part." Tsukasa, crossing his arms, proclaims with a small smirk. Natsumi panics and calls him off. "Tsukasa-kun." Tsukasa just shrugs his shoulders, curious if the immortal statement is true. Dragonic hums actually want to shock him by showing his immortality, but not right now. Tempting, but another time. The purple dragon states, taking flight off the ceiling, and flies around too, resuming his words. "Anyway, I've lived for a long time and experienced many things that if I told you both my story, you would be driven to boredom." Natsumi hums, actually curious. The dragon then lands on Tsukasa's right shoulder, who looked annoyed he literally sat on him like a bird. The dragon then says, smirking, tapping his fedora hat down a bit towards Tsukasa, "I also happen to be able to travel into worlds, much like yourself." Tsukasa stares suspiciously, questioning him. "Was that you who used the Aurora curtain?" Dragonic raises his hat up to show his dragon eyes and asks him curiously, "Who told you that name?" Tsukasa smirks, pointing at himself. Dragonic rolls his eyes, muttering, "Of course you gave it that name, but no, I open a dimension portal." "Dimension portal?" Tsukasa and Natsumi both ask, confused. Dragonic hops off his shoulder, hovering in the air with his wings as he extends a claw and moves it across the air. The claw moves and rips open a fabric of reality as a glowing majestic light with tinier shines of light. Natsumi gasps with astonishment in her voice, with Tsukasa eyeing it, and takes a photo with his camera. A rift between worlds through a dimension break. The crack between time and reality. Dragonic explains, using the same claw to move up, closing the fabric within seconds. Natsumi is just left astonished by it while Tsukasa says unimpressed, "I see." Natsumi turns with a face of annoyance, questioning him. "You do?" Tsukasa nods, eyeing the lizard, able to understand now his intentions are not evil. If he was, they would be dead by now. Natsumi sweat drops, never understanding him. She looks at Dragonic and asks him, "How do you know my Oji-chan?" Dragonic descends up to her and tells her honestly, "I knew of Eijiro-kun because I asked him to create the Decadriver." Natsumi startles, never knowing that. She looks down, saddened, wishing her grandfather told her all of this sooner. Dragonic sees this and frowns, tapping his hat to her, resuming with a somber voice, "I needed it for reasons. I wish I came sooner." She tries not to sob, nodding as she tells him, "He passed away last year." Dragonic frowns grief, telling her sincerely as he touches her shoulder, "My apologies Natsumi-kun, I should have come sooner." He was sadly with other matters in his world. Natsumi nods, being strong, refusing to cry again. She already did at her grandfather's funeral. "So you came here for this?" Tsukasa changes subjects by pulling out the Decadriver with the ride booker. Dragonic eyes it as he hovers over towards them. He grabs the Decadriver and examines it. Indeed it was it, the driver that activates the power of Decade, but he cannot use it now that the driver can only be used by one and only one user. Still, it works. Dragonic then returns it to Tsukasa to his confusion. He receives it with the dragon stating, "Yes, but you can keep it." It seems the Decadriver isn't complete yet. "Complete?" Tsukasa mutters, raising an eyebrow, eyeing the driver. Dragonic nods, explaining it in detail. It is meant to wield the powers of nearly all the primary riders and their abilities. But I can sense it's still a newborn, hardly awakening its true potential. Natsumi snaps out and grabs the ride booker, revealing the other cards which were still blank. Besides, it's a good chance to see how strong you Tsukasa, Kamen Rider Decade, can be in saving the 9 worlds. Dragonic states with a slight grin at Tsukasa, who stares annoyed. He takes back the binder from Natsumi as he demands the dragon upsetly. "Why should I? I have nothing to do with this." Dragonic hums, thinking how naive this human is, but he knew he would be. But right now he is the key to all of this and to learn the other source of the destruction of the worlds. Like I said, every world including Natsumi's is in danger. The dragon reminds him, now acting serious as he further explains. Something or someone is out to destroy the multiverse of the Kamen Riders within our universe. Multiverse? Tsukasa and Natsumi both question. A bit puzzled, Dragonic nods, descending back on top of the table, picking up a bowl of rice with chopsticks. He expertly eats them with the sticks, asking them as he did, "Are you two aware of the multiverse theory?" Natsumi sweat drops heavily, not at all, while Tsukasa responds knowledgeably on the subject. The possibility of when we make a choice or decision, there exists another or a parallel universe in which did not make the same choice or decision. Dragonic smirks by his response, answering him, "There you go. So there are millions worlds like that?" Natsumi questions, shocked. Dragonic nods, chewing with his fangs as he further explains. Something like infinity worlds. The world of the riders has multiple main worlds. I call them originals. They are the original worlds that coexist but do not share the same space but do with the same time. Natsumi's eyes start spinning out of bewilderment, with Tsukasa able to follow questions. Dumbfounded by the concept. "Why is that?" Dragonic chews as he asks them. "You've encountered the different type of monsters, yes?" The two nod, recalling those different creatures that Tsukasa as Decade defeated. Dragonic nods as he states, "Exactly. Imagine riders sharing the same world? Imagine how humanity will handle the multiple threats of these monsters. Or how the one universe, the one world, can handle all of them." Tsukasa thinks about it for a few seconds and nods, admitting the world would not be able to handle multiple, different breeds of monsters. Dragonic nods as he resumes explaining, pulling out a chart with multiple Earths aligned in a circle. Regardless, the worlds all share a unique space between each other but coexist within the same time that they can temporarily merge when a situation requires more than one rider. It's a sense of balance, but that's not what I'm here for. He then unfolds worlds underneath those worlds almost like a spiral, explaining it. See below those main worlds are what I like to call pilots. The drafts are more appropriating the bases of the original world. They are the what-if realities, the alternative reality worlds or AR. For short, or another writer's world, Tsukasa adds with a small smirk. Dragonic sighs admitting it as he resumes. Sure. Point is those worlds are the first parallel worlds to the main worlds which spread open, creating the worlds of worlds underneath them in an endless spiral cone. Basically a body that requires different parts but all are the same in one way to another. In a way, they are the bases of the bodies of the original worlds. They are the concept of the worlds. Oh, like heads, neck, torso, brain and heart. Natsumi clarifies, twirling her body to them. Single quote ellipsis. Sure, Dragonic just utters out smiling. Finding her answer rather fitting. Tsukasa rolls his eyes. Already getting the gist that these worlds help stabilize the multiverse and concept of creating more parallel worlds underneath them. Like a body. He groans, not going to agree with Natsumi on that. Anyway, due to the AR worlds being the most connected to the original worlds, they can become easily the most dangerous. Dragonic resumes saying with a grim tone. Natsumi blinks, questioning him. How so? Tsukasa smirks, already understanding, and states the obvious. I get the gist now. If the AR world is disturbed or destroyed, the original world it belongs to vanishes from existence. Dragonic nods, smirking as he responds. Exactly, Tsukasa-kun. Without the base, the foundation crumbles away. And when that happens, chaos spreads. The other main and alternative worlds suffer the same consequences if one falls, and that results to, well, absolute destruction. He then pulls out a chart that shows the worlds collapsing among each other due to the missing AR world and sent into destruction. Dragonic then explains, showing another chart that shows the destruction of the whole multiverse. If the AR worlds are disturbed, like one of those worlds are in chaos, are merged with another world to self-destruction or anything else to unstable its connection with its main world, it will destroy the main world along with itself. And then that whole multiverse will soon follow. Dragonic states firmly at the possible destruction. He, however, did not tell them about how this could affect the rest of their universe, but he won't inform them, yet. Natsumi nods, following the dread of this threat, but Tsukasa does ask the most obvious question. And what does this have to do with me? Dragonic eyes the so-called writer and smirks, announcing as he points his finger claw at him. You, Tsukasa Kadoya, are Kamen Rider Decade, aka the Destroyer of Worlds. Tsukasa staggers slightly. Him? A destroyer? Not exactly a destroyer. You destroy threats, beings or worlds that risk the danger of the AR and main Rider worlds. It is your duty to stop such threat and destroy it. Dragonic clarifies, revealing Tsukasa's responsibility and duties. Natsumi is left silent, eyeing Tsukasa. Smirking. Tsukasa then says, almost amused. I get the gist of it. I'm a tool that destroys. Dragonic just eyes him, and before Tsukasa could do anything, he smacks him across the face with his tail. Almost like a massive slap. Natsumi gasps in shock, with Tsukasa dropping on the ground. Ow! Tsukasa utters out in pain, rubbing his face in pain. Dragonic growls at his statement. Having experienced many things, and for one to always be true, the words of someone who believes everyone has a purpose. No one is a tool. Everyone has a purpose. From writing a fanfic to trying to make the world a better place. Dragonic declares, correcting his proclamation. Tsukasa gets on one knee and looks at the dragon with an eyebrow raised, questioning him, extremely puzzled. Why did you bring up the fanfic part? Dragonic, silent and not sure what to put it, simply smacks him again with his fast swinging tail, hitting Tsukasa on the head that he falls face forward. Ah, again? Tsukasa grunts, not able to act cool with how heavy those tails feel. Dragonic looks down at him and picks him up back to his feet. He tells him with a teasing voice. You get the gist of what you have to do. Right. Tsukasa-kun? I got the gist of it. Tsukasa responds uneagerly but understands. He does plead with the dragon, rubbing the back of his head, bothered. Just don't smack me with that tail again. No promises, Tsukasa-kun. Dragonic responds, denying his request as he grins devilishly. Tsukasa groans by that honorific. So Tsukasa-kun as Decade can help stop the destruction of our worlds, right Dragonic? Natsumi, sweat dropping, asks the purple dragon about Tsukasa's duty. Dragonic eyes her and nods, replying, yes. Once he does, all worlds including this one will be safe. Natsumi eyes Tsukasa, adjusting himself, and looks at her. He smirks and responds rather confidently. I'll do it, Tsukasa-kun. She utters, blushing red, only to be cut off as Tsukasa protests. But not to save the worlds. She blinks awkwardly. Tsukasa grabs on his camera around his neck and smirks, proclaiming his vow. My dream is to capture worlds through my photos. And with such an opportunity, I can't just say no. Dragonic hums with a smile while Natsumi drops her defeated head. Besides, Natsumi-kan might lose her world and die, and I can't accept that. I still owe her rent. Tsukasa then adds, looking away slightly, causing Natsumi to raise back her head, blushing red. Then it's settled, Dragonic declares with a smile. So shall we go? I mean after dinner, because I made all this. Natsumi eyes the feast and blushes, admitting it. I am hungry. Tsukasa sighs, waving his hand to the food as if to allow it. Natsumi grins excitedly with her arms extended to her chest, hopping over towards the meal. He eyes the dragon and questions him about something that's still bugging him. Then do you know who's behind the attack on Natsumi's world? Dragonic eyes him back and shakes his head, stating, not yet, but once we fix the 9AR worlds, I will have an answer. Tsukasa raises an eyebrow on that. Why so badly save these 9 worlds first? Can't they just go where this mastermind bad guy might be? He's not questioning it, but he's not fond of the idea. Natsumi just looks worried, eyeing Tsukasa, wondering if giving him the Decadriver will put him into this path. And her dream. Could Decade really be the one destroying everything? His train of thought is interrupted by Dragonic telling the two. Speaking off. It seems you two drawn in an uninvited guest. The two blink and turn towards the doorway to notice a creature watching them from the shadows. Natsumi gasps, thinking it's a dog. It's a doggy, she begins to say until the so-called dog walks out. Natsumi widens her eyes to see a white fur, dark blue skin, face, claws. Sharp side-like tail and crescent-shaped horn on its right side, with the fur on the left being a smaller upside-down crescent-shaped hairbang. It had red eyes and a blue orb on its forehead. She also notices a red ribbon around the horn with a strange orb in the middle. A white devil doggy? Natsumi screams, grabbing and lifting Dragonic as a shield. The dragon sweat drops. Honestly, not the first time someone has done this to him. Absol, the dog-like creature, barks, gazing almost ominously towards Tsukasa. He hums, eyeing the dog, muttering, okay, Absol. The creature once more barks loudly, with Tsukasa nodding. I see. Natsumi eyes him, speechless. Could Tsukasa understand it? Tsukasa turns towards Dragonic, still held by the petite young lady, and asks him, annoyed, Dragonic, what the hell is it saying? Natsumi's sweat drops heavily, really giving him too much credit. It's an Absol. Dragonic explains it is able to understand the creature. He does know any language, or well, anything a creature or monster would say. A Pokemon, huh? Tsukasa mutters, reaching for his camera around his neck, and aims for a photo shoot, taking it. Absol makes a face as her photo is taken. Natsumi blinks, remembering those video games about those monsters, but she still finds it adorable. Ah, so kawaii, she shouts, giggling. Dragonic nods as he informs Tsukasa. She's saying that she senses a disaster about to happen. Really? Must be this whole world. Tsukasa assumes the obvious only for the Absol to dash and tackles him into the ground right to the wall. He grunts struggling as Absol growls, its eyes glowing. Absol. Natsumi panics with dragonic sighing and explains. She's referring to you, Tsukasa. Tsukasa looks both puzzled but amused. He cracks a smirk and asks the angry Pokemon in a taunt. Funny, I'm already a walking disaster too? Absol. Absol lets out a growl, showing her claws and fangs towards the human male. Dragonic sighs translating. She states that she will eliminate the threat of this world being you. Tsukasa adjusts his coat, responding. Funny puppy. Absol. Absol barks seriously and going to kill him. Tsukasa didn't need translation, pulling out the Decadriver. Then understand this. He replies by placing the device on his waist and becomes its belt form. Tsukasa then pulls out the Decade card from the binder, flipping it to have its back facing forward and slides it in. Kamen ride. The Decadriver speaks as the large red glowing letters popping out as Tsukasa shouts, pushing the handles of the belt forward. Henshin. Decade. The device shouts, triggering and transforming Tsukasa into Kamen Rider Decade, wiping his hands. Absol glares cautiously with Natsumi warning him about hurting the cute mon. Tsukasa. Don't you dare harm this adorable doggy. Decade scuffs, not planning to kill it but will make it regret attacking him. Relax, Natsumi-kan. This won't take me longer than, he begins to answer, but before he could finish himself, Absol charges and swings its right claw at him. Decade guards it with ease, but this was what Absol wanted as its horn starts glowing dark and swings it, releasing a dark energy-like attack that connects a surprised Decade, thrusting him out of the building and crashes outside with a dark explosion soon following. Natsumi drops on her knees speechless as Absol runs off after the rider. What was that? She asks, taken back what just happened, with Dragonic explaining it. Night Slash. Pokemon are incredible creatures of great power. For both good or evil depending on the mon itself or the trainer. Natsumi blinks, really surprised. Dragonic hums as he flies off, knowing well the situation will escalate if he doesn't stop it. Decade emerges from the attack, brushing off the damage as Absol comes right at him with a tail Night Slash attack. He dodges the slash as Absol hits a tree and slashes it in half in the process. You know a dog shouldn't kill man's best, Decade begins talking about, but gets cut off with Absol charging, and she swings its horn and fires the purple slash, Psycho Cut, from her horn. Decade only had time to react by putting up a guard with his arms and blocking the energy slash before exploding on him. He's pushed back, rolling before standing up annoyed. Bad dog. Decade shouts at the Absol as he pulls out his ride booker in gun mode and slides a card in the Decadriver. Attack ride. The belt shouts as Decade pushes just one handle forward and triggers it. Blast. He fires multiple energy shots at the mon. Absol, however, uses Detect to block each energy bullet shot with its claws, horn or tail with precise deflection and ease. Decade grunts, coming at her with a kick, but Absol dodges and then bites his leg. Decade freaks out in a yell as Absol Rag tosses the rider around before slamming him backwards to the ground. Decade groans, dusting off the damage he took, and states, "Smart dog but not smart enough." He pulls out another card and slides it in. Attack ride. The belt shouts as Decade turns invisible. Invisible. Decade immediately turns invisible, vanishing from his enemy's sights. Absol startles as she quickly focuses on her senses. She stands her ground, her tail up and ready, and then feels it. Quickly enough she twirls and repels an invisible Decade's sword swing and blocks it. Decade staggers, visible now as he swings again. Absol dodges each swing with ease before performing rough play, tackling Decade and smashes him apart in a pile of smoke. Absol growls with Decade pulling himself up, grunting. This has not turned out how he wanted, and it crossed the line with him. Okay, no longer a dog person now. Decade mutters out, more than pissed. He pulls out a blank rider card and decides to try what he did before, declaring, "Let's try this then." He slides the card in the Decadriver with the belt responding, "Kamen ride." Absol growls on guard as Decade pushes the handles, wiping his hands together as the belt lets out shrieking sparks. This was new as the belt declares shooting the card out. Error! Error! Decade startles grabbing the card and slides another in, only to get the same result. Error! 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 Decade tries a third time and once more the Decadriver fails. He looks down at the failed cards and they are still blank. All the other cards work but these ones still blank refuse to work. He comes to a conclusion that something is wrong with them. Either this is what Dragonic was saying before, he's incomplete. Absol. Decade turns forward to see Absol coming at him with Psycho Cut again. He manages to counter it with his sword but it pushes him back hard. Absol growls going to finish him but then Dragonic flies right in front of her. "That's enough, girl," the dragon orders her, not going to let her continue. Absol growls about to use Night Slash again but suddenly blushes with Dragonic moving so quickly almost in seconds, petting them on. "Easy easy," Dragonic says smiling with Absol relaxing, her tail wagging rapidly. Decade would be sweat dropping, not expecting a dragon to be petting anything other than burning everything it stares at. Dragonic chuckles smiling, able to tell that this Absol isn't trying to kill Tsukasa because it wants to but needs to. Basically she's not evil, she's doing it for a reason. He asks her while petting behind her head, "Tell me why you want to kill Tsukasa so badly?" Absol barks, stomping its right paw eagerly like a dog. She eyes the dragon and blushes, finally replying, "Absol, I see." Dragonic responds listening closely with Absol continuing, "Absol, Absol, Absol, Absol." Dragonic nods petting her more. Decade stomps his foot annoyed before transforming back and Tsukasa demands, "What she said?" Absol won't tell me why but she must not let the destroyer to bring disaster upon the world. Dragonic informs him not getting much from the Mon but he can't let Absol kill Tsukasa. He then suggests her smiling, "How about this, you can kill Tsukasa if he attempts to destroy something he should not." Absol stares at him before glaring at Tsukasa. "Fair?" Dragonic asks, needing an answer. Absol thinks about it and nods crying in its voice. Single quote ellipsis. Absol. Chuckling, Dragonic accepts holding his right claw up. "Deal." High five. Absol smiles and does high five him with her right claw. Tsukasa sighs, walking forward and states, "So it won't." Immediately Absol moves right past Dragonic and bites right into Tsukasa's right leg. He widens his eyes and lets out a painful scream, feeling her fangs biting deep. "Aw! God damn it." Absol pulls away, smirking while Tsukasa glares furiously as he rubs his leg. At least it's not bleeding but he still feels the damn pain. "Why did she just bit me?" he demands, annoyed and outrageous by the bite. Dragonic eyes Absol who answers, "Absol, she said you also taste good." Dragonic states with a grin. Absol nods, crying out happily, "Absol." Tsukasa glares at both, silent, and just says walking back inside the studio while dragging his bitten leg, "Let's go to the first world, Dragonic." Dragonic smirks, nodding as he pets Absol before the rest of the group walks back inside. Natsumi sweat drops having watched the whole thing and asks as she hands Tsukasa a bag of ice. How will we travel in between worlds?" She asks the purple dragon wondering how they will travel between these worlds. Dragonic grins answering her, "Simple. I asked Eijiro to make this building compilable to my powers." He flies over a rope near the black screen backdrop for taking photos and examines it. Certain this is what Natsumi's grandfather worked on. "Here goes," Dragonic declares as he yanks on the rope. As soon as he did, the building instantly starts shaking as the blank backdrop begins to change, symbolizing the world they will go to. From outside, the building starts vanishing, teleporting out of this world. Someone, however, watches this twirling a blue, yellow strip gun-like weapon and his face hidden by a cap he's wearing. Everything is turning out well. Now to see what this Tsukasa-san can do and what treasures I'll uncover. The male figure proclaims with a small, smug smirk, turning around and follows them to the next world. Now their journey begins. What will the first world reveal to our explorers trying to save all? End of part 3. Like and subscribe.